Stoic Wisdom for Every Day, How to Stay Calm in a Chaotic World. Published by Audiobooks Hub. Introduction. There is a moment in everyone's life when the noise of the world feels unbearable. You open your phone and scroll past endless tragedies. Your email inbox fills up with demands. The people you love expect you to be strong, yet you feel as if you're balancing on the edge of a storm. This isn't a rare experience, it's the defining condition of modern life. Our world has more information, more speed, and more pressure than any generation before us. And in that swirl of chaos, our hearts and minds crave one thing: peace. It may sound like a paradox, but the secret to staying calm in a chaotic world was discovered over 2,000 years ago. In the crowded streets of ancient Rome, in the harsh training camps of the Greek city-states, and in the private studies of philosophers and emperors, a small group of thinkers quietly shaped a way of living that would outlast empires. They called it Stoicism. For them, philosophy wasn't an abstract hobby. It was a daily practice, a method of survival and strength. When Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, wrote his private notes to himself, he wasn't writing for history. He was reminding himself how to stay upright when the world pressed down on him. Seneca, an advisor to an unpredictable emperor, wrote letters about inner peace not because it was fashionable, but because he desperately needed it to endure his own life. This book is about taking that ancient wisdom and making it real for you, today. Stoicism is not about cold detachment or denying emotions. It's about clarity. It's about focusing your energy on what you can control and letting go of what you cannot. It's about becoming resilient not by building walls but by developing inner strength. In a world that constantly tries to provoke you, a stoic attitude lets you respond instead of react. It gives you a quiet power, one that cannot be taken away. Why should you care about stoicism? Because no app, no new productivity method, and no external change will bring you the lasting calm you're looking for. The outside world will not slow down for you. But you can slow down your own mind. You can learn to live by principles that keep you steady no matter what happens. This is what the Stoics practiced, and this is what you can practice, too. In writing this book, I don't want to overwhelm you with history lessons or abstract theories. I want to give you a practical, living philosophy, something you can use the moment you close each chapter. We will look at simple but powerful ideas, like distinguishing what's in your control from what isn't, training your perceptions, and cultivating gratitude even in difficulty. You'll see how ancient wisdom can guide you through modern problems, how to handle conflict at work, how to deal with criticism, how to stop being addicted to your phone, how to remain grounded when everything seems uncertain. These are not just techniques but habits of thought, ways of being that build over time until calmness becomes your natural state. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and, instead of immediately reaching for your phone, taking a quiet breath and asking yourself, what's within my power today? That one question alone could transform how you experience stress. Or picture yourself in an argument, feeling the rush of anger, and then remembering, their behavior is not mine to control. My response is, that pause, that moment of awareness, is where freedom lives. This is the essence of Stoicism, the ability to stand in the center of your own life, no matter how loud the outside world becomes. Throughout this book, you will meet the Stoics as if they were mentors whispering across the centuries. You will discover that their lives were not so different from yours. Marcus Aurelius dealt with wars, plagues, and political intrigue, yet he found time to write about kindness and perspective. Epictetus was born a slave and suffered great hardships, yet he became one of the most influential teachers of freedom and self-mastery. Seneca wrote about tranquility even as his own life was marked by risk and eventual tragedy. They were not superheroes. They were people facing chaos, just as you are. Their wisdom endures because it was forged in fire. This is not a book about perfection. You won't become immune to stress overnight. You won't stop feeling anger, fear, or sadness. But you will start to see them differently. You will learn to create a space between stimulus and response, and in that space, you will find calm. You will also find courage, compassion, and clarity. The Stoics didn't teach resignation, they taught action guided by reason, virtue, and perspective. They taught how to live well in the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. Each chapter of this book is designed as a step on that path. Together, they form a kind of daily practice for your mind. We will start by exploring the core principle of control, what you can and cannot change. We will then move into perception, how to train your mind to see things clearly. We'll look at self-discipline, resilience, and how to turn obstacles into opportunities. We'll talk about values, about relationships, about the power of acceptance and the practice of gratitude. By the end of the book, you will have not just a set of ideas but a personal toolkit for calm living. There is a story told about a man who came to Epictetus, frustrated by the injustice he faced. The philosopher listened and then asked, "Do you want to be invincible?" The man said yes. Epictetus replied, "Then do not fight battles you cannot win. Focus only on what is yours to control." This is the heart of Stoicism. It is not about winning arguments or conquering others. It is about mastering yourself. In a chaotic world, that mastery is the only true freedom. You might be thinking, this sounds simple, but life is complicated. You're right. Life is complicated. But the Stoics knew something profound. While circumstances are complex, principles can be simple. And simple principles, practiced every day, lead to deep change. You don't need to memorize dozens of rules. You only need to return, again and again, to a few clear truths. Over time, they will shape you. Over time, calm will not just be something you try to achieve, it will be who you are. As you read this book, don't treat it as a manual to rush through. Treat it as a conversation with yourself. Pause after a chapter. Reflect on how the ideas apply to your life. Try one small practice at a time. The Stoics themselves believed that philosophy wasn't about how much you read but how deeply you lived its principles. One idea, truly absorbed, can be more powerful than an entire library. By the end of this journey, you will have something rare, a quiet center in a noisy world. You will know how to keep your mind steady when news cycles, social media, and personal challenges try to pull you off balance. You will carry within you the calm of Marcus Aurelius, the clarity of Epictetus, and the resilience of Seneca, not as a costume you wear but as a part of your own character. And from that inner calm, you'll find yourself more capable, more compassionate, and more free. Chapter 1. Control, the foundation of calm. Every morning when you wake up, before you check your phone or speak a single word, the world has already started moving without you. People are making decisions you can't influence. Events are unfolding on the other side of the planet. A storm may be gathering in your city. Prices go up, traffic jams appear, news headlines erupt. This is life. And for most of us, our first instinct is to react. We check, scroll, worry, plan, complain. We feel small because so much seems out of our hands. The Stoics began with a different instinct. They asked one simple question: what is within my control? This was not an abstract exercise. It was the cornerstone of their peace. Epictetus, who had been a slave before becoming a teacher, told his students, some things are up to us, and some things are not. He said it so often because it's so easy to forget. But if you only remember this one principle, your relationship to stress will change forever. Think about your day. The weather, your boss's mood, the economy, the outcome of an election, none of these are in your control. You can't decide if it rains. You can't decide how someone else treats you. You can't decide whether a stranger likes you. But there are things you do control completely: the way you respond, the effort you put in, the honesty of your words, the actions you take. In this distinction lies the seed of freedom. Modern life trains us to blur the two. We're told to take control of our future and manage outcomes. But much of what we think we control is really influence at best, illusion at worst. The Stoics were brutally honest about this. They accepted that outcomes are never guaranteed. You can prepare for a meeting, but you can't control how others react. You can take care of your health, but you can't control whether you'll never get sick. This might sound pessimistic. It isn't. It's liberating. Because when you stop trying to control what you can't, you reclaim all the energy you were wasting. That energy can now go into what you can control: your focus, your discipline, your perspective. Instead of panicking about the market, you can improve your skills. Instead of trying to change someone else's opinion, you can clarify your own values. Instead of raging at traffic, you can practice patience or listen to a podcast. You cannot control the storm, but you can adjust your sails. This is not just philosophy, it's a practice. You have to remind yourself daily. One powerful habit is to start the morning by writing or thinking through a simple list: what's within my power today? Under that heading, list the actions, choices, and attitudes you can decide for yourself. I can control whether I go for a run. I can control whether I treat people with respect. I can control how I frame this challenge. Then, when you encounter something outside your control, a rude comment, a canceled flight, an unexpected bill, pause and say, "This is outside my power." The pause itself is a victory. Marcus Aurelius did exactly this. In his private notes, he often reminded himself that people would be selfish, rude, or mistaken, and that he should expect it rather than be shocked. By anticipating what was out of his control, he kept his calm. You can do the same. Expect that life will not go exactly as planned. Expect that you will be challenged. Then, when it happens, you are already ready. This way of thinking also helps with relationships. Many of our frustrations come from trying to control others, their choices, their feelings, their timing. But the Stoic path is to focus on your own role. You can be honest, patient, and kind. You can set boundaries. But you cannot make someone understand you, forgive you, or love you. Letting go of that false control brings relief. You stop pulling on a rope that isn't attached to anything. You stop living in a constant state of disappointment. You might ask, but if I stop trying to control outcomes, won't I become passive? This is a common misunderstanding. Stoicism is not about resignation, it's about clarity. You still act, plan, and strive. You still work hard for your goals. But you detach your sense of peace from the results. You give your best effort and accept the outcome. This makes you stronger, not weaker, because your motivation no longer depends on something you can't guarantee. You become unshakable. Imagine two people training for a marathon. The first is obsessed with winning. She watches her competitors constantly, worries about weather forecasts, and ties her self-worth to coming first. The second focuses only on what she can control: her training, her nutrition, her mindset, and her race strategy. She wants to do her best, but she doesn't obsess about the medal. Which runner will have a calmer, steadier race? Which will recover better from a setback? The second runner embodies the Stoic attitude. This principle also helps with the news and social media. Today, we are bombarded by information about things far outside our influence: wars, disasters, scandals. The Stoic approach is not to ignore the world but to distinguish between awareness and obsession. Stay informed enough to act responsibly where you can: vote, donate, support, speak up, but don't drown in what you cannot change. Protect your mental space the way you protect your home. You will find that once you practice this distinction, your emotions start to shift. Anger softens into patience. Anxiety shrinks into focus. Helplessness turns into energy. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstance and start feeling like an active participant in your own life. This is the foundation of calm, not a world without storms but a mind that knows which storms are its business. Start small. Today, choose one situation where you will consciously practice this. Maybe it's your commute, or a difficult conversation, or a delay at the store. When the frustration rises, pause and ask, is this within my control? If the answer is no, release it. If the answer is yes, act. Each time you do this, you build a muscle. Over weeks and months, that muscle becomes strength. Over years, it becomes character. Epictetus told his students, "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus can conquer my will." He was pointing to the ultimate freedom, the freedom to choose your own response. The world can limit your circumstances, but it cannot dictate your attitude unless you let it. This is the essence of Stoicism, and it begins with control. In a chaotic world, people search for security in possessions, status, or guarantees. But the only secure foundation is internal, the knowledge that your peace depends on your choices, not on chance. When you truly accept this, you become like a tree with deep roots. The wind may shake your branches, but your core remains steady. This chapter is your first practice. Start your mornings by naming what is within your control. Pause when frustration arises and ask the question. Release what is not yours to control, and put your full energy into what is. Do this, and you will begin to feel a quiet strength growing inside you, a strength no chaos can touch. Chapter 2. Perception, training your mind to see clearly. If the principle of control is the foundation of calm, perception is the doorway. We live not in the world as it is, but in the world as we interpret it. Two people can walk through the same rainstorm, one curses the clouds, the other savors the fresh smell of wet earth. The rain is neutral. Their perception creates their experience. In the same way, most of our stress comes not from events themselves but from the story we tell ourselves about those events. The Stoics understood this with stunning clarity. It's not things that disturb us, Epictetus said, but our judgments about things. A flight delay is just a flight delay until you tell yourself, "This always happens to me," or "Now my whole life is ruined." A critical comment from a colleague is just words until you decide, "They hate me," or "I'm a failure." This isn't to deny that some events are painful. Loss is painful. Betrayal hurts. But even in pain, our perception shapes our resilience. We can't always choose our circumstances, but we can always choose the lens we look through. Training your perception begins with awareness. Catch yourself in the act of automatic interpretation. Notice the story you're telling. When a problem arises, pause and ask, what exactly happened? What am I adding to it? This is not about positive thinking or forcing yourself to be cheerful. It's about seeing clearly. Clarity is different from optimism. Optimism paints everything in bright colors. Clarity strips away illusions. And when you see things as they are, without exaggeration or self-punishment, you can respond with wisdom instead of panic. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. In his private writings he dissected events, reducing them to their basic facts. A lavish banquet? Dead fish and birds and pigs. A political scandal? Noise of the crowd. He wasn't being cynical. He was reminding himself not to be swept away by appearances. You can do the same. When faced with something stressful, reduce it to its facts. "I have a deadline." She said these words. "The car needs repair." Once you've done that, you're free to choose your response rather than be imprisoned by your first reaction. Another Stoic practice is to shift perspective in time and space. Imagine how you'll see this problem a year from now. Will it still matter? Imagine you're looking at your life from a great height, like an astronaut seeing Earth from orbit. Suddenly the fight you had this morning seems small. This isn't minimizing your life, it's right-sizing it. Perspective turns mountains back into molehills, or at least into climbable hills. Perception also involves how we frame obstacles. The Stoics believed obstacles were opportunities for virtue. Marcus wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." If someone insults you, it's an opportunity to practice patience. If plans change, it's an opportunity to practice adaptability. This doesn't make hardship pleasant, but it gives hardship a purpose. When you see difficulties as training for your character, you become less resentful and more resourceful. In modern life, we're constantly bombarded by headlines and notifications designed to trigger our fears and outrage. This is where Stoic perception is most needed. Before reacting, ask, who benefits from me feeling this way? What is the actual fact here? Pause before sharing, commenting, or spiraling. Protect your mental space. You can stay informed without being inflamed. You can care without being consumed. One simple exercise is to reframe your self-talk. Instead of saying this is a disaster, try this is a challenge. Instead of I can't handle this, try I'm learning to handle this. Instead of why me, try why not me. This isn't about sugarcoating reality. It's about choosing a frame that empowers you rather than weakens you. Words are not magic spells, but they shape your nervous system. The stories you tell yourself become the mood you live in. Perception also matters in relationships. When someone behaves badly, you can tell yourself, they're evil, or you can tell yourself, they're acting out of ignorance or pain. The second story doesn't excuse them, but it keeps you from drowning in bitterness. Seneca wrote that anger is a kind of temporary madness fed by false ideas about the world, that people should behave as we wish, that life should unfold as we expect. By adjusting our expectations, we suffer less. We don't approve of injustice, but we're less surprised by it, and therefore calmer in confronting it. Another powerful practice is voluntary discomfort. The Stoics sometimes imagine loss or hardship before it happened. Not as superstition, but as preparation. Seneca would remind himself that wealth could vanish, that exile was possible, that death was inevitable. This made him less fearful and more appreciative of what he had. You can try a softer version. Imagine, just for a moment, how life would feel if you lost something you take for granted, a relationship, a job, your health. Then open your eyes to the fact that it's still here, right now. Gratitude floods in. Perception shifts. All of this requires gentleness with yourself. You will still misinterpret events. You will still overreact. That's normal. The practice is to catch yourself a little sooner each time. To pause a little longer before responding. To step outside the story and look at the facts. Over time, your default perception becomes clearer, calmer, kinder. Life still throws curveballs, but you see them coming, and you swing with steadier hands. Here's a practical way to start. At the end of each day, write down one event that upset you. Then write 2 columns. In the first, describe exactly what happened, no adjectives, just facts. In the second, write the story you told yourself about it. Then ask, is there another way to see this? This simple exercise trains your mind to separate reality from interpretation. It's like cleaning the lens of a camera. The picture sharpens. The Stoics were not born with this clarity. They trained it. They failed, reflected, and tried again. So will you. But each small success is a victory. Each time you choose a calmer, clearer perception, you change the shape of your day. And as your days change, your life changes. In a chaotic world, perception is your inner compass. It doesn't deny storms or pretend the sky is always blue. It shows you where you are and where to steer. Combined with the principle of control, it creates a solid foundation. You know what's yours to act on, and you see it clearly. This is how you build a calm mind, one thought, one story, one moment at a time. Chapter 3. Resilience, turning hardship into strength. If control is the foundation of calm and perception is the doorway, then resilience is the habit that allows you to keep walking through life when the ground shakes beneath you. Everyone likes the idea of being resilient. We admire people who endure adversity without losing their dignity or sense of purpose. But resilience is not a trait you're either born with or not. It's a practice. It's a way of living. And the Stoics understood it long before the word became popular. The ancient world was not gentle. Marcus Aurelius lost several of his children. He led Rome through war and plague. Epictetus spent part of his life as a slave and lived with a permanently damaged leg. Seneca faced political danger and ultimately ordered suicide. Yet their writings are full of calm reflection and even gratitude. They weren't immune to pain, they trained themselves to respond to pain differently. That training is what we now call resilience. Resilience begins with acceptance. This doesn't mean passivity or giving up. It means telling the truth about what is happening instead of arguing with reality. When something difficult happens, our first reaction is often "this shouldn't be happening." But it is happening. Fighting that fact only adds a second layer of suffering. Acceptance says, "This is what I'm facing." From there you can decide how to respond. It's like standing in a river. You can thrash and be dragged under, or you can feel the current and start swimming. Once you've accepted reality, you can look for your point of agency. The Stoics didn't believe in just enduring misery, they believed in using it as material for virtue. Marcus wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything thrown into it." In other words, whatever life throws at you can fuel your growth. An insult becomes an opportunity to practice patience. A setback becomes a chance to practice perseverance. Even grief can deepen your compassion. This mindset doesn't erase pain, but it transforms it. Think of resilience as a muscle. Every time you face a challenge and choose a constructive response, you're lifting a mental weight. The weight might be small, an annoying email, a delayed train, or it might be heavy, a job loss, an illness, a heartbreak. Either way, your response builds strength. Over time, you become less reactive and more steady. You don't stop feeling, you start recovering faster. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start seeing yourself as a participant in your own growth. A simple practice is to ask, "How can I use this?" whenever something difficult happens. Not "Why me?" but "What can I learn?" or "What virtue can I practice right now?" This shifts your focus from helplessness to agency. It turns obstacles into teachers. It's not always easy. Sometimes you'll only see the lesson in hindsight, but the question itself opens a doorway. It reminds you that you are more than your circumstances. Resilience also depends on preparation. The Stoics regularly practiced what we might call mental rehearsals for adversity. Marcus would write in the morning that people he met would be selfish or ungrateful. Seneca would remind himself that wealth could be lost. Epictetus advised picturing life's fragility so you're not shocked when something changes. This isn't pessimism. It's training. Soldiers drill so they can act under pressure. Stoics rehearsed adversity so they could stay calm when it arrived. You can try a gentler version of this today. In the morning, imagine one or two possible difficulties: an argument, a delay, a disappointment. Then imagine yourself responding calmly, with self-control. This mental rehearsal primes your nervous system. When a challenge comes, you're not ambushed, you're prepared. Your brain recognizes the pattern and recalls the response you practiced. This is resilience in action. Another pillar of resilience is self-compassion. The Stoics were not cold robots. They accepted human weakness, including their own. Marcus often reminded himself to be patient with others and with himself. If you expect yourself never to stumble, you'll collapse at the first mistake. Resilience means forgiving yourself quickly, learning, and moving forward. You are a work in progress. Each setback is not a verdict on your worth but a moment in your training. Physical habits also support mental resilience. Seneca advised simple living, moderate food, regular exercise, exposure to discomfort. Modern research agrees. Sleep, movement, and breathing all affect your ability to stay calm under stress. You can't think your way to resilience if your body is depleted. Take care of your physical state, and your mind will find it easier to stay steady. Relationships matter too. Even the Stoics, who prized self-mastery, valued friendship. Resilience doesn't mean isolation. It means standing on your own feet while also accepting support. Talking with a friend, a mentor, or a therapist isn't weakness. It's strategy. Shared perspective can lighten the load and help you see options you'd missed. Epictetus taught in a school, not a cave. Marcus Aurelius wrote about his gratitude for teachers and friends. We grow stronger in community. Modern life gives us many opportunities to practice resilience. A critical email. A long queue. A sudden change in plans. A disappointment in love. The next time something like this happens, pause. Breathe. Acknowledge what's happening. Ask what's in your control. Reframe your perception. Then act from your best self, even if only for a moment. This small sequence, accept, assess, reframe, act, builds the habit of resilience. Each time you do it, you reinforce the neural pathways of calm. Resilience doesn't mean you stop feeling pain or sadness. It means you give those feelings room to exist without letting them drive your behavior. You can grieve and still act wisely. You can be afraid and still do what's right. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite fear. The Stoics knew this. That's why they linked resilience with virtue. The goal is not numbness but strength. Over time, practicing resilience changes how you see yourself. You stop thinking, I can't handle this, and start thinking, I can handle hard things. That shift in identity is powerful. It makes you more confident, not in outcomes, but in your own capacity to meet them. When the next storm arrives, and you'll feel the wind and think, I've sailed through storms before. I know how to steer. Imagine your life a year from now if you practiced resilience every day. Setbacks still happen, but they no longer define you. Criticism stings less. Uncertainty feels less threatening. You're not invincible, but you're unshakable in a quiet way. People may even comment on your calm. They'll see you as strong, but you'll know it's just practice, acceptance, perception, action, compassion, repeated until it becomes second nature. This is what the Stoics were pointing to. Resilience is not a special gift. It's a choice repeated until it becomes a character. In a chaotic world, that character becomes your anchor. It's not glamorous. It's not instant. But it's real. And once you've built it, no one can take it from you. Chapter 4. Self-discipline, the art of inner freedom. When most people hear the word discipline, they think of harsh rules or punishment. They imagine self-denial, rigid schedules, or joyless routines. But to the Stoics, self-discipline was not about cruelty to oneself, it was about freedom. The person who cannot control their impulses is not free. They are a puppet pulled by every craving, fear, and distraction. The person who can guide their own actions is free, no matter the circumstances. This is why the Stoics saw discipline not as a burden but as a kind of liberation. Think of your own life. How many times have you wanted to do something important, exercise, read, save money, focus on work, but instead found yourself scrolling, snacking, procrastinating, or spending? This is not because you are weak. It's because your brain is wired to seek immediate comfort. Modern life makes this wiring even stronger. Every app, advertisement, and convenience is designed to trigger your impulses. Without self-discipline, you're constantly at the mercy of outside forces. With it, you reclaim your power. The Stoics practiced self-discipline in small, daily ways. Seneca advised moderation in food and luxury so he wouldn't become dependent on them. Epictetus urged his students to practice saying no to temptations, not out of moral superiority but to keep their freedom. Marcus Aurelius wrote about rising early to do his duty even when he wanted to stay in bed. These weren't acts of self-punishment, they were training sessions. Just as muscles grow by lifting weights, Character grows by small acts of discipline. Discipline begins with clarity. You must know what you're aiming for. Without a clear purpose, discipline feels like deprivation. With a clear purpose, discipline feels like alignment. If you know why you're waking up early, saving money, or holding your tongue in an argument, the effort becomes meaningful. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be? What values do I want to live by? Let your actions flow from those answers. Discipline then stops being a struggle against yourself and becomes a commitment to yourself. One powerful Stoic practice is voluntary discomfort. This might sound strange in an age of convenience, but it's simple. Occasionally skip a luxury you normally enjoy. Take a cold shower. Fast for a meal. Walk instead of driving. Speak less in a meeting. Each small act is a reminder, I don't need this comfort to be okay. It's not about self-harm, it's about building inner independence. When life later removes a comfort against your will, you're less shaken because you've practiced living without it. Self-discipline also means choosing your focus. In a chaotic world, attention is your most precious resource. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. In practical terms, this means setting boundaries with technology, carving out time for reflection, and directing your energy toward what matters most. You cannot do everything. You must choose. And each time you choose intentionally, you strengthen your will. Many people think discipline is about forcing yourself through sheer willpower. But the Stoics understood it's also about designing your environment. If you're trying to eat better, don't keep junk food in the house. If you want to read more, leave a book on your pillow instead of your phone. If you want to save money, automate transfers to your savings account. By arranging your surroundings to support your goals, you make discipline easier and more sustainable. Another key is how you speak to yourself. Harsh self-criticism often backfires, leading to shame and rebellion. The Stoics practiced firm but kind self-talk. Marcus scolded himself gently for laziness but then reminded himself of his duty. Seneca wrote letters to himself like a wise friend. You can do the same. When you slip, don't say, "I'm hopeless." Say, "I stumbled. Let's stand up again." Discipline grows from encouragement as much as from firmness. Self-discipline also extends to emotions. You cannot stop anger, fear, or desire from arising, but you can train your response. This is where the earlier chapters, control, perception, resilience, support discipline. When you feel provoked, pause before speaking. When you're anxious, take a breath before acting. When you're tempted, wait 5 minutes before deciding. Each pause is a microdiscipline. Over time, those pauses accumulate into self-mastery. The paradox of discipline is that it creates more joy, not less. When you're disciplined with your time, you're less stressed. When you're disciplined with your money, you're freer to make meaningful choices. When you're disciplined with your habits, your body and mind work better. Even pleasures feel richer because you're not numbed by excess. Discipline isn't about living a dull life, it's about living a life that's truly yours. Here's a simple exercise to begin today. Choose one small area where you want more discipline: waking up on time, checking your phone less, eating more slowly, practicing gratitude. Make the goal specific and small. Commit to it for 1 week. Each day you succeed, note it down. Each day you slip, note what triggered it without self-judgment. This isn't about perfection. It's about building awareness and consistency. Like a muscle, your self-discipline will strengthen with repetition. Another practice is the evening review, which many Stoics used. Before bed, reflect on your day. Where did you act according to your values? Where did you fall short? What can you improve tomorrow? Do this gently, like a coach reviewing a game with a player. This daily reflection turns mistakes into lessons and successes into reinforcement. Over time, it shapes your character more powerfully than occasional bursts of willpower. Remember, discipline is not a single act but a lifestyle. It's not about becoming hard or rigid. It's about becoming deliberate. In a chaotic world, where distractions multiply and impulses are constantly triggered, self-discipline is an act of self-respect. It says, "I will choose how I live. I will not be blown around by every wind." This quiet commitment creates a calm that no external comfort can match. Imagine the freedom of waking up each day knowing that your habits align with your values, that your actions flow from your priorities, not from your urges. Imagine how much mental noise would vanish if you no longer broke promises to yourself. This is the gift of self-discipline. It doesn't make life easy. It makes you steady. And steadiness is the soil in which peace grows. Chapter 5. Values and Virtue, Living by What Truly Matters. One of the most striking features of Stoicism is its focus on virtue. In a world obsessed with success, appearance, and external rewards, the Stoics place the highest good within a person's own character. Wealth, fame, health, and comfort are all desirable but ultimately indifferent. They don't determine whether you live a good life. Only your actions and intentions do. This principle is both radical and liberating. It means that even in loss, even in hardship, even in obscurity, you can still live well if you live by your values. But what are your values? This is a question many of us never pause to ask. We chase goals handed to us by society, a promotion, a car, a perfect body, a certain number of followers, without stopping to ask whether these things truly matter to us. We feel restless and anxious because our lives are built on borrowed purposes. The Stoics invite us to step off that treadmill. They teach us to identify our own guiding principles and to measure our life by them, not by someone else's scoreboard. For the Stoics, the four cardinal virtues were wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. Wisdom meant seeing the world clearly, without illusion. Courage meant doing what is right even when it's uncomfortable. Justice meant acting fairly toward others, respecting their dignity and needs. Self-control meant mastering your desires so they don't master you. These virtues overlap and reinforce each other. You cannot be just without courage, or wise without self-control. They form a foundation strong enough to stand on in any storm. Living by your values begins with reflection. Ask yourself, what qualities do I admire most in others? What kind of person do I want to be remembered as? When you strip away status and possessions, what remains that makes life meaningful? Write your answers down. Keep them somewhere you can see them daily. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of his duties as a human being, a father, an emperor. He wrote about patience, kindness, humility, and justice, not about luxury or power. You can do the same, no matter your role. Once you've clarified your values, the next step is to align your actions with them. This sounds simple but can be challenging in practice. Daily life tempts you to compromise. It's easy to preach honesty but tell a small lie to avoid embarrassment. It's easy to value kindness but snap at a colleague when you're tired. The Stoic approach isn't to demand perfection but to practice consistency. Each moment is an opportunity to choose virtue. Each small choice shapes your character. A helpful Stoic practice is to use your values as a filter for decisions. Before you act, ask, does this align with my principles? Will I be proud of this choice later? This doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes. It means you'll make them consciously and learn from them. Over time, your default settings shift. Instead of reacting impulsively, you respond from your values. This is a powerful way to stay calm in a chaotic world. When your compass is internal, you're less swayed by external turbulence. It's also important to understand that virtue is active, not passive. Justice isn't just about not harming others, it's about contributing to the common good. Courage isn't just about enduring pain, it's about speaking up when something is wrong. Wisdom isn't just about knowing, it's about applying knowledge. Self-control isn't just about restraint, it's about using your energy purposefully. The Stoics were not armchair philosophers. They engaged with the world while staying true to their principles. You can too. Living by your values doesn't mean life becomes easier. In fact, it can make some things harder. You may have to turn down opportunities that conflict with your integrity. You may have to confront uncomfortable truths about yourself. You may have to disappoint others who expect you to compromise. But the reward is deep and lasting peace. When you live by your values, you don't have to keep track of lies, hide your motives, or fear exposure. Your conscience is clear. This inner clarity is a form of calm no chaos can touch. Modern life constantly pressures us to focus on outcomes. Did you win? Did you get the raise? Did you impress? The Stoics shift the question from outcome to effort. Did I act with virtue? Did I do my duty? This shift is liberating because outcomes are not fully under your control. You may act wisely and still lose. You may act courageously and still fail. But you can always control whether you acted according to your values. And when you measure your success that way, no one can take it from you. Here's a simple exercise. Take one of the 4 virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, or self-control, and focus on it for a week. Each morning, write it at the top of a page. Under it, write one way you'll embody it today. In the evening, review how you did. No self-judgment, just observation. Next week, choose another virtue. Over time, you'll develop a deeper familiarity with these qualities and a stronger ability to express them naturally. Another practice is to create a personal code. This can be a short list of principles you want to live by, written in your own words. For example, I will speak the truth even when it's uncomfortable. I will treat others with respect even when I'm stressed. I will act with courage even when afraid. Keep it visible. When faced with a tough decision, read it. This code becomes a touchstone, a quick reminder of who you want to be. Remember that living by your values is not about self-righteousness or judging others. The Stoics were humble about their own shortcomings. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they don't know good from evil." This wasn't an excuse to be cynical but a call to compassion. He reminded himself to act with virtue regardless of others' behavior. That's the real test. In the end, your values are the one thing no one can give or take away. They are your anchor in chaos, your compass in confusion, your shield in adversity. They are also your legacy. Long after possessions are gone and achievements are forgotten, the way you treated others, the courage you showed, the wisdom you shared, these remain. Living by virtue is not just a path to personal calm, it's a way of contributing to a better world. Picture yourself years from now looking back. Will you be proud of how you lived? Not of what you owned or how you were seen, but of the person you became? The Stoics would say this is the only question that truly matters. And the answer is built, choice by choice, day by day, through the steady practice of your values. In a chaotic world, this is your unshakable ground. Chapter 6. The Power of Perspective, Seeing with a Clear Mind. If there is one theme that runs through every Stoic text, it is the importance of perspective. Life constantly confronts us with events we did not plan, with people we cannot control, and with feelings that seem overwhelming. We cannot always change the world, but we can change how we see it. Perspective is the space between stimulus and response. It's where freedom lives. Marcus Aurelius wrote endlessly about this. Each morning he reminded himself that the day would bring difficulties, and each evening he reminded himself that the universe is vast and he is a small part of it. By seeing the bigger picture, he shrank the sting of daily annoyances. Epictetus taught his students to distinguish what is up to us and what is not. That simple act of separating what you control from what you don't is a shift in perspective. It's like opening a window in a stuffy room. The air changes. Think of the last time you felt overwhelmed by a problem. In the moment, it felt total. It filled your whole field of vision. But later, when you looked back, you probably saw it differently. Perhaps it wasn't as bad as you thought. Perhaps it even led to something good. This shift in perspective happens naturally over time, but the Stoics teach us to do it in the moment. They practiced stepping back mentally, as if viewing their life from above, to see events in their true scale. A useful image is the view from above, which Roman Stoics often used. Imagine you're rising up from where you sit. You see your room, your street, your city, your country, the planet itself. People below rushing, arguing, buying, selling, striving. From this height, your personal worries seem smaller. You see how everything changes, how nothing is permanent. This isn't to diminish your feelings but to right-size them. Most of what we take personally is not personal at all. It's just life unfolding. Perspective also means questioning your interpretations. Events themselves are neutral, it's our judgments that make them good or bad. Losing a job may seem terrible, but it may free you for a better opportunity. A criticism may sting, but it may hold truth you need to grow. A delay may frustrate you, but it may protect you from a worse outcome. The Stoic discipline of perception is the art of catching your judgments before they harden. When something happens, pause and ask, what else could this mean? What am I assuming? That pause is often enough to prevent unnecessary suffering. Modern life bombards us with information designed to provoke instant reactions. Headlines scream crisis. Social media amplifies outrage. Algorithms reward our anger and fear. Without conscious effort, our perspective shrinks to whatever flashes across our screens. The Stoics would tell us to slow down. Before you react, step back. Before you share, reflect. Before you assume, verify. Perspective requires space, and space requires patience. Another part of perspective is gratitude. When you're focused on what's missing, problems seem huge. When you focus on what's present, even challenges feel lighter. The Stoics practiced negative visualization, imagining the loss of things they valued, health, freedom, loved ones, not to depress themselves but to appreciate them. This mental rehearsal made them both more grateful and more resilient. When real loss came, they were steadier because they had already considered it. You can do this gently by pausing to imagine, for just a moment, that today is the last time you'll enjoy something ordinary, a meal, a walk, a conversation. Suddenly the ordinary glows. Perspective also means seeing others in context. When someone offends you, Marcus advised, remember they act as they think best, just as you do. This doesn't excuse bad behavior but frames it. Instead of seeing an enemy, you see a human being shaped by experiences, fears, and blind spots. This makes compassion possible and keeps you from being dragged into bitterness. From a Stoic view, another person's faults are not chains on your mind unless you let them be. Practical exercises can help train this mental habit. At the end of the day, review an event that upset you. Write it down. Then ask yourself, how big will this seem in a week? In a year? On your deathbed? What might someone wise say about it? What might a friend say? Often you'll feel your tension loosen just by doing this. You're giving your mind a wider frame. Another exercise is to literally change your vantage point. Go outside, look at the sky, sit quietly, breathe. Physical movement often shifts mental perspective. The Stoics did not deny pain or injustice. They simply refused to let these things define them. They trained themselves to see the world as it is, not as they wished it to be, and to act within it according to their principles. Perspective was not an escape but a preparation. By seeing things clearly and fully, they became more effective and calmer. When you stop fighting reality, you free energy to respond to it wisely. In a chaotic world, perspective is a superpower. It prevents you from being yanked around by every headline, every slight, every setback. It allows you to choose your response instead of being trapped in reaction. It's not about indifference but about proportion. You still care, but you care in a way that is steady, not frantic. You still act, but you act from clarity, not panic. Imagine how your life would feel if you could instantly right-size every problem, every insult, every delay. Not ignore them, but see them in their true scale. Your heart would be lighter. Your decisions would be better. Your relationships would be calmer. This is what the Stoics practice daily. And like any skill, perspective grows with use. Tonight, when you reflect on your day, pick one situation that irritated you. Ask, if I were looking at this from far away, what would it mean? If I were advising a friend, what would I say? If I had only 1 month to live, how much would this matter? Notice how your feeling shifts. That shift is your freedom. That shift is the calm the Stoics cherished. Chapter 7. Relationships and Connection, Stoic Calm in Dealing with Others. It's easy to imagine Stoicism as a solitary philosophy, the image of a sage on a mountaintop, unbothered by the noise of the world. But that picture is misleading. The Stoics lived in cities, led armies, governed empires, taught students, raised families, and engaged with society every day. They believed human beings are social creatures by nature. To live well is not to withdraw from people but to interact with them wisely. Relationships test our patience, challenge our values, and also give life its deepest meaning. For the Stoics, the real practice of philosophy wasn't in isolation but in connection. Marcus Aurelius wrote that people are born to cooperate like hands or feet, like eyelids or rows of teeth. In other words, we are designed to work together. But of course, cooperation is rarely smooth. People irritate us. They misunderstand us. They let us down. And sometimes, they actively harm us. The Stoics didn't deny this. Instead, they prepared for it. Marcus began many mornings by reminding himself that the day would bring arrogant, ungrateful, and selfish people. He didn't do this to feel bitter, but to be realistic. When those people appeared, he wasn't surprised. He was ready. This practice of expectation is powerful. If you expect everyone to be perfect, you'll be constantly frustrated. If you expect human weakness, you'll be calmer when it shows itself. You'll be less likely to take things personally. Most people aren't out to harm you, they're just caught in their own habits, fears, and blind spots, just as you are. Seeing others this way softens judgment and makes patience possible. But Stoicism is not only about enduring others. It's also about treating them justly. Justice was one of the 4 cardinal virtues. To the Stoics, it meant more than obeying laws. It meant recognizing the shared humanity in every person, acting fairly, and contributing to the common good. Seneca reminded his readers that kindness is never wasted, even if it isn't appreciated. Epictetus told his students to treat others as if they were family members in training, learning how to live. When you act from justice, you not only improve your relationships but also strengthen your own character. Conflict, of course, is inevitable. The Stoics handled it by focusing on what they could control, their own words, tone, and choices. You cannot control another person's anger, but you can control your response. You cannot control whether someone forgives you, but you can control whether you apologize sincerely. You cannot control whether others like you, but you can control whether you act with integrity. This focus keeps you from being dragged into the chaos of blame and resentment. Another Stoic practice is to separate behavior from intention. When someone insults you, their words may sting, but their intention may not be as cruel as you think. They may be projecting their own frustration. They may be careless, not malicious. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, they act as they think best. You don't have to agree with their actions, but seeing them as misguided rather than evil helps you respond with calm instead of hostility. Relationships also challenge us because we crave approval. The Stoics warned against letting the opinions of others rule our lives. Epictetus compared it to being a slave, always adjusting yourself to please your master. Freedom, he said, is caring more about your own principles than about applause. This doesn't mean being rude or indifferent. It means being anchored in your values so you can interact with others without losing yourself. Ironically, when you stop chasing approval, you often earn more genuine respect. At the same time, Stoics valued friendship deeply. Seneca wrote movingly about the joy of a true friend, someone with whom you can share your soul without fear. Friendship, in Stoic thought, isn't based on utility or pleasure but on virtue. It's about supporting each other's growth, reminding each other of wisdom, and practicing honesty and kindness. In modern terms, this means seeking relationships that make you better, not just more entertained or distracted. It also means being that kind of friend to others. One practical way to bring Stoic calm into relationships is through the pause. When you feel provoked by a partner's comment, a colleague's tone, a stranger's rudeness, pause before reacting. Take one breath. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? What response aligns with my values? That small space often prevents words you'll regret and actions that escalate conflict. It's a simple practice, but it transforms interactions. Another practice is daily reflection. At night, review how you treated others. Did you speak kindly? Did you listen? Did you judge unfairly? Where did you lose patience? Where did you succeed in staying calm? Seneca recommended this exercise not to shame yourself but to grow. Each day is training for the next. Over time, you'll find yourself less reactive, more patient, more grounded in your values even when others are not. It's also worth remembering that calm in relationships doesn't mean passivity. The Stoics were not doormats. They believed in setting boundaries and standing for justice. If someone mistreats you, you don't have to accept it silently. You can withdraw from toxic people, say no firmly, or speak truth respectfully. What Stoicism teaches is to do this without rage or bitterness. Your strength comes not from overpowering others but from being unshakable within yourself. In a chaotic world, relationships can be both the greatest source of stress and the greatest source of joy. The Stoic path is to engage with others realistically, justly, and calmly. To expect imperfection but act with integrity. To seek friendships rooted in virtue. To remember that another person's actions don't control your peace, only your response does. This mindset turns even difficult relationships into opportunities for growth. Imagine living this way. A coworker criticizes you, and instead of snapping back, you respond with calm. A friend disappoints you, and instead of resentment, you choose understanding. A stranger cuts you off in traffic, and instead of anger, you let it go. At first, this might feel unnatural. But with practice, it becomes strength. And that strength makes your connections not weaker, but deeper, because calmness is magnetic. People feel safe around those who are steady. The Stoics understood something we often forget: no one controls the world alone. We live in constant interaction, and our peace depends not on escaping people but on learning how to live with them wisely. To stay calm in a chaotic world is not to hide from others but to engage with them as a Stoic, patient, just, compassionate, and free. Chapter 8. Adapting to change. embracing life's constant flow. Change is the one certainty in life. Nothing remains the same. Relationships evolve, jobs end, bodies age, cities transform, and the world shifts in ways we cannot predict. Most people resist change. They cling to routines, possessions, or identities, hoping stability will protect them. But the Stoics understood a truth both simple and profound: resisting what is inevitable only brings suffering. True calm comes not from freezing life in place, but from learning to flow with it. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that the universe is a river, and he is a swimmer within it. Epictetus taught that you cannot command the waves, only your own strokes. Life will unfold whether you like it or not. The question is how you navigate it. Stoicism is not about detachment from life, it's about engagement without being overwhelmed. It's about embracing impermanence as the natural order of things and finding freedom in the knowledge that change itself is neutral. The first step is awareness. Notice how you react when things shift. Do you panic? Complain? Resist? Or do you pause, assess, and move forward? Awareness is the doorway to choice. Change often triggers fear because we assume it will bring loss or pain. But the Stoics remind us that our judgments create the suffering. A promotion may bring anxiety instead of joy if we obsess over expectations. A breakup may feel catastrophic if we see it as an end rather than a transition. By observing our reactions, we gain the power to respond wisely. Acceptance is the next step. This doesn't mean resignation or passivity. It means acknowledging reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. When a relationship ends, a job changes, or a plan falls apart, acceptance allows you to stop wasting energy on denial. It clears space for constructive action. Marcus Aurelius often wrote that the world is indifferent to your plans, and therefore you must adjust. This isn't defeatism, it's pragmatism. Calm arises when you stop struggling against what cannot be changed. Adaptation also requires flexibility in thought. Stoics train their minds to anticipate change. Seneca recommended negative visualization, imagining loss, illness, or disappointment not to depress oneself but to prepare emotionally. By rehearsing change mentally, you reduce the shock when it happens. Your mind becomes elastic. You don't resist life's movements because you've already practiced bending. This mental agility is a key tool for navigating a chaotic world. Action comes next. Acceptance without effort leads to passivity. Adaptation is active. Ask yourself, what is within my control? What can I do to respond effectively? Perhaps a project needs adjustment, a conversation needs clarity, or a plan needs revision. Focus on these elements and let go of the rest. The Stoics emphasized action aligned with virtue. When change arrives, your duty is not to complain, but to act wisely and courageously. This mindset transforms disruption into opportunity. Stoicism also teaches that change is often an invitation, not a punishment. Losing a job may be a chance to pursue a long-delayed passion. Moving to a new city may bring friendships you never imagined. Even illness or setback can deepen resilience, gratitude, and perspective. By reframing change as potential rather than threat, you shift from fear to curiosity. This doesn't make change painless, but it makes it manageable and sometimes even enriching. Emotional regulation is essential. Change often triggers fear, frustration, or grief. The Stoics practiced mindfulness of these emotions. They acknowledged feelings without letting them dictate action. If a loved one is ill, grief is natural. If a plan fails, disappointment is understandable. But these emotions need not cloud judgment. By naming them, observing them, and letting them flow, you retain calm. Emotions are signals, not chains. A practical exercise is to ask, what part of this change is under my control, and focus energy there. Write down elements you can influence, and let go of the rest. For example, you cannot control a colleague's decisions, but you can control your preparation. You cannot control a storm, but you can control your navigation. This distinction between what is up to you and what is not lies at the heart of Stoic adaptation. Another tool is reflection. Look back on past changes and notice how you survived and even thrived. Remember the lessons learned, the strengths developed, and the growth gained. By observing your own history of adaptation, you build confidence in your ability to handle future shifts. Life may remain unpredictable, but your capacity to respond is steady. This self-trust is a source of profound calm. Finally, perspective is crucial. Change is constant, and we are small within the flow of time. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the universe has existed for eons before him and will continue long after. What seems urgent today will often appear minor in hindsight. By keeping this long view, you diminish anxiety and cultivate patience. Change is just life moving. It is neither enemy nor friend, just reality unfolding. Imagine living fully in this way. A sudden shift no longer triggers panic or despair. You see it clearly, accept it, adjust, and act with wisdom. You no longer waste energy resisting the inevitable. Each change becomes a teacher, each disruption an opportunity to exercise virtue, resilience, and perspective. Over time, the world becomes less chaotic because your mind becomes steadier. Chaos remains outside, but inside you have found your calm. Stoic wisdom teaches that the only constant we truly control is how we navigate change. By observing, accepting, adapting, and acting from virtue, we turn uncertainty into freedom. Life will always flow, we cannot stop the current. But we can learn to swim, and in doing so, we find peace in the ever-changing river. Chapter 9. Living stoically, calm in a chaotic world. After exploring control, perception, resilience, self-discipline, values, perspective, relationships, and change, we arrive at the final question: how do we put it all together? How do we live stoically, not just in theory, but every day, in a world that is unpredictable, demanding, and often overwhelming? The answer lies in integration, not perfection. Stoicism is not a checklist, it is a continuous practice. Each day is an opportunity to exercise calm, wisdom, and virtue, to respond rather than react, and to align your life with principles that endure even when circumstances do not. The Stoics did not promise a life without hardship. They promised something more valuable: freedom within hardship. Freedom from fear, from anger, from impulsive reaction. Freedom to choose how you live, even when the world does not bend to your desires. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, plagues, and political intrigue, yet he wrote about peace and purpose. Epictetus, born a slave, wrote about autonomy and dignity. Seneca, powerful yet exiled, wrote about resilience and clarity. They show us that calm is not a product of circumstance but of practice. Daily practice begins with self-awareness. Notice your thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Observe without judgment. Identify when you are pulled by fear, anger, or desire. Each observation is a step toward mastery. As we have discussed in earlier chapters, control your perceptions, align your actions with your values, and pause before reacting. These habits build mental muscle. Over time, your mind becomes steady, like a well-trained instrument ready to play even amid noise and distraction. Reflection is another cornerstone. Take moments each day to review your actions, your successes, and your missteps. What did you handle well? Where did you fall short? How can tomorrow be better? Reflection is not self-punishment, it is guidance. The Stoics kept journals, letters, and meditations to cultivate insight. Modern life provides endless distractions, but even a few minutes of thoughtful reflection can ground you, reinforcing calm in ways that habitual busyness cannot. Discipline remains central. The ability to act according to reason and virtue, rather than impulse or social pressure, is the anchor of Stoic living. Practice restraint in small things: what you eat, how you spend your time, what you allow into your mind. These small acts accumulate, shaping character. Each choice, however minor, is an opportunity to exercise freedom. Discipline is not denial, it is deliberate living, a conscious declaration that you will not be a passive passenger in your own life. Relationships, too, are arenas for practice. Engage with others realistically, patiently, and justly. Accept imperfection, respond with virtue, and seek connection rooted in shared humanity rather than convenience or self-interest. This does not make interactions easy, but it makes them meaningful. You will experience frustration and conflict, but through these challenges, you refine patience, empathy, and resilience. Calm is strengthened, not weakened, by human complexity. Perspective is your shield against chaos. Constantly remind yourself of what is truly within your control and what is not. Reframe difficulties as opportunities to exercise virtue. See life from above, appreciating the transient nature of worry, the fleetingness of desire, and the enormity of the universe. Negative visualization, reflection on impermanence, and mindfulness of judgments help maintain perspective. With it, events lose their power to overwhelm, and your inner life remains steady even when the outer world is turbulent. Change, finally, is a teacher. Life flows, circumstances shift, and plans dissolve. Stoicism invites you to move with the current rather than resist it. Acceptance, adaptation, and purposeful action turn disruption into growth. Every loss, every failure, every unexpected turn is a chance to exercise resilience, wisdom, and courage. Stoic calm does not come from avoiding storms but from learning to navigate them gracefully. The beauty of Stoic practice is that it is incremental. You do not become a Stoic overnight. You do not eliminate all fear, all anger, or all frustration immediately. You train your mind and character daily. You practice awareness, reflection, self-discipline, virtue, perspective, patience, and adaptation. Each day builds upon the last. Each small success reinforces the next. The path is gradual, but the results are profound, a steady, resilient, and calm mind capable of meeting the world on its own terms. Imagine living this way. When your phone pings with bad news, you pause. When your plans unravel, you adapt. When a colleague provokes, you respond wisely. When life throws a challenge, you act with courage. You are not immune to emotion or circumstance, but you are not dominated by them either. You move through the world with clarity and steadiness, anchored by values, perspective, and self-mastery. Others may see composure, you feel freedom. Stoicism is, at its core, a philosophy of action rooted in reason and virtue. It is not abstract theory but a toolkit for living. It asks you to face reality honestly, to govern your own mind, to cultivate character, and to treat others justly. It asks you to accept what cannot be changed, adapt to life's flow, and take responsibility for what can. When practiced consistently, Stoicism equips you to navigate a chaotic world with calm, dignity, and purpose. As you close this book, remember that Stoicism is a lifelong journey. There is no finish line, no perfect day, no final mastery. Each moment is an opportunity. Each decision, a chance to act in harmony with your values. Each difficulty, a training ground for virtue. The world may remain unpredictable, but you can cultivate an inner life that is steady, resilient, and free. That is the promise of Stoicism, calm not as an escape from life, but as a way to live it fully, wisely, and well. Step forward with this knowledge. Face the day. Meet the challenges, embrace the change, and engage with others. Live deliberately, with virtue, with perspective, and with discipline. Your calm is not given by circumstance but earned through practice. In this, you become truly free, free to think clearly, act wisely, and navigate the chaos of life with grace. And in that freedom lies the quiet power to live every day well.